If in 2 years' time Cody Rhodes receives jeers, people begin to think that Bryan Danielson is overrated, and WWE fans launch a campaign for Vince McMahon to replace Triple H as Booker, based on the following, it wouldn't exactly scan as a shock. So I'm Gareth, this is What Culture Wrestling, and here are some insane wrestling fan backlashes you did not see coming. Number 10, knives out for MJF. 2 weeks after MJF defeated Samoa Joe in an excellent main event at Grand Slam, the knives came out. MJF cut his worst promo ever. Fairly bog standard call and response material laced with cringe insults, and that, gauging by the social media backlash, was enough to act as a referendum on his world title reign. It was enough to erase 4 years of a seminal run. MJF is apparently doing too much bad, cringeworthy content that belongs more to WWE than AEW. MJF apparently is single-handedly responsible for AEW's soft domestic business. The pre-taped skits are mostly terrible, yes, but better than New Bebe outdrew everything CM Punk did on Collision outside of the premiere. This MJF business is not unlike a good version of Hulk Hogan's 1994 to 96 WCW run, over and popular at the same time, with the creeping notion that it doesn't quite belong in its context, and doesn't do a great deal for the identity of the promotion. Still, a bit of perspective is needed, bloody hell. Number 9, NXT is no longer the future. Triple H developed an ingenious plan to generate critical acclaim and fan investment at the peak of NXT. His 1-hour TV show was a breezy, logical watch, even if it wasn't absolutely must-see compelling, and the takeover events were incredible, seminal. They took forever to come around and delivered an absurd hit rate, feeling as special as they did elusive. You could argue that the takeover shows were homogenized and that a sprint wouldn't have gone amiss, but NXT in its pomp was backlash proof. The backlash happened nonetheless. NXT felt like an alternative because it was, but only in contrast to the silly and inscrutably stupid and wasteful main roster. It was exposed during the Wednesday Night War because AEW was a live, authentic pro wrestling. Just a few episodes into Dynamite, NXT, good as the in-ring was rendered obsolete. The scripted promos and non-stop intensity felt more synthetic than ever. Fun while it lasted though. And a quick question for you, what was your favourite NXT takeover bout of all time? Let me know in the comments section right down below. Number 8, Cody Rhodes is turned heel. Cody Rhodes was so over in 2019 that he, more than long-term project Hangman Page or even Kenny Bloody Omega, was the preeminent fan favourite of AEW. He anointed himself as the face of the revolution, and his spellbinding change the world rhetoric and incredible timeless babyface selling got him over to that level. Cody was nothing less than the answer to your prayers. So what happened? The star who must win more than he lost to remain a star was criticised for winning a lot of matches, weirdly. Victories over Penta El Zero Miedo and Lance Archer furrowed some brows. He might not have helped himself with certain superpowered match finishes, and his admirable attempts to go all out scanned to some as desperation. He had been replaced as the main character when, in contrast of his own situational heel TNT title run, Hangman Page's emotional redemption arc cast him as the top babyface. Those fans were also spoiled by the arrivals of CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, by which point Cody was working inscrutable mid-card programs with about 5 different wrestlers with no believable association at once. Cody left, shockingly, and became the most focused and best version of himself. So it all worked out then. Number 7, Edge gets booed in Toronto. Edge was a Toronto native who looked destined for singles stardom the very moment he stopped cosplaying as a goth and stuck a kazoo in his mouth. A very entertaining Attitude-era mid-card act, he held polymath potential early. As good at talking trash as he was thrilling fans with his clever structuring of Daredevil spots in those legendary TLC wars, Edge was the safest bet in the early 2000s of being the next top star. While he had developed a sophisticated approach to the in-ring craft, it didn't take until 2005. He was either injured or just there for around 2 years. His babyface character was a bit earnest and dry, and the gags didn't land as well as they did in 2000. Still, watching him get booed out of the building in Toronto at SummerSlam was crazy, and he echoed that with his facial expression. He looked nonplussed or shaken up, but the ironic message was received. Edge, the man who once invoked Billy Gunn as Verb, was a bit ass as a babyface and needed to turn. Number 6, CM Punk gets booed in Chicago. Because wrestling never ends, and it is frighteningly easy to stop caring about the talents you bump every week for your entertainment, never forget, the easiest shortcut with which to get over is to disappear outright. Every heel becomes a babyface when they return from injury. This phenomenon intensifies when the fans aren't certain that a wrestler is going to return at all. This blend of anticipation and relief undid CM Punk at AEW All Out Out 2022. And while his press conference promo was clearly to some extent rehearsed, the post-main event angle would not have helped his mood. MJF was revealed to be the Devil, who had won a frankly illogical casino ladder match in the opener. He revealed himself to Punk in a cliffhanger, and when he wandered out onto the stage, the fans cheered him for threatening to humiliate the top babyface. Again, MJF had left, so this wasn't entirely surprising, but it was shocking since All Out emanated from Chicago. There was a certain irony to this, one that Punk probably should have forecast himself. His aura as an iconoclast was cemented when he left wrestling for 7 years. MJF wasn't away for nearly as long, but he in effect used one of Punk's tricks against him, in fiction and reality. Number 5, no Revolt for CM Punk. WWE history is so overwhelming that it informs how the fandom receives everything else. This phenomenon, understandable given the promotion's monopoly, has affected AEW through no fault of AEW's own. This isn't to state that AEW is faultless, but many people were cynical and anxious about AEW's ability to do certain things because WWE botched the hell out of almost everything. Consider the result of the Elite versus Dark Order at Fight for the Fallen 2021. Because WWE had a dismal track record of promoting veterans and part-time stars over up-and-coming talents, the threat of Hangman Page not completing his story felt all too real, even if the reality proved the cynicism to be just that. It was thought then that the Chicago fans would revolt over All Out 2023 weekend, when Tony Khan announced that CM Punk had been terminated with cause on the Go Home episode of Collision. That's what WWE fans would do. They'd chant CM Punk in protest once upon a time. If anything, the backlash was at Punk's expense. Beyond a 1-minute spell when the Young Bucks were in the ring, the fans simply did not care. Even Punk's staunchest supporters knew that it was time for him to go. Number 4, the fans turn on Jack Perry. In the age of relentless episodic TV, there can be no such thing as a Ricky Steamboat, a career babyface so endearing, skilled, and authentic that fans could never bring themselves to grow resentful of them. It all just gets too boring and familiar nowadays. Still, if there was ever a candidate for the role, that talent's name was Jack Perry. As Jungle Boy, Perry was such a fantastic and exciting underdog babyface. Showing and not telling, Jungle Boy's fictional story was easy to get behind, as was his tragic backstory. He was almost there, he just needed your belief and a killer entrance theme to make it. He was very handsome, but he was also scrawny. The idea of watching him mature with a ground floor investment was a uniquely compelling device for mainstream US wrestling, which under WWE's chokehold was impossible. The thing is, nobody took his evolution into a badass seriously, and this posturing was his undoing. And when he was finally granted significant promo time, he cut a sarcastic, aloof figure, which repelled crowds and drove his heel turn. Actually, the modern day Ricky Steamboat does exist, and yet. Number 3, Rey Mysterio isn't Daniel Bryan. WWE's Daniel Bryan was undeniable to all in 2014, except WWE, who denied him while at the same time espousing their company motto of putting smiles on people's faces. An unbelievably great, fiery babyface who was a genius at rallying crowds, the humble, funny killer seamlessly blended those attributes to become the most over act in the company. He wasn't tall and had a scraggly beard, and while this bonded him with fans, screw the fans! You will have a tall, tan dude with muscles because it's still the 80s in Vince McMahon's mind. WWE could have brought out Stone Cold Steve Austin and faced a 50-50 shot of getting him booed. That impossible dream scenario was the only vague shot of getting away with not putting Bryan in the match. Absolutely nobody else would have generated a non-toxic reaction. Even Rey Mysterio, who was jeered mercilessly. He was stale and in a state of physical decline in 2014, but he didn't deserve that. A more elegant solution was booking Daniel Bryan to enter and win the Royal Rumble match. Why didn't they do this? Number 2, the hell did Ronda Rousey do? Ronda Rousey isn't a particularly nice individual, or has at least expressed vile opinions throughout her time in the public eye. But WWE fans don't care about that. They pop when Vince McMahon makes cameo appearances on TV after all. She could not have worn a wider smile during her first appearances for WWE. She earned a more than decent wage, obviously, and occupied a top spot immediately. But she was the anti-mercenary. She was thrilled to be there and turned up every week, which was crucial because in the age of the special attraction, the hardcore WWE fanbase valued squad players. Ronda turned up every single week. She flew across the breadth of the ring to create movement for Nia Jax in the very best matches of her career. She wrestled with such electrifying, unbelievable intent that her opponents would get their heads knocked off if they didn't duck. She was sensational, a prodigy, and she cared. And she was rejected after working what was the best WWE Women's Match of the Year at Survivor Series 2018. What? Were fans worried that she'd thwarted Becky Lynch's push? Seriously, as bobbins as Ronda was in her second run, the hell did she do in November 2018? It's a damn mystery. Number 1, AEW, brackets general. AEW has suffered the same fate NXT did in 2019. AEW, 4 years in, has lost the charm and the novelty and entered a period of familiar, declining creative. The problems are mounting and various, which might explain why every individual fan has their own solution. A lot of things have converged to make this so. Fans are spoiled by excellent and unbridled in-ring that no longer feels unique or special. The typical Dynamite match, while forward-thinking, is less effective than ever. The 12 to 15 minute back and forth of top star versus solid mid-card hand / up-and-comer / veteran no longer hits in the way it once did. It used to be that the top star won a meaningful ranked match where the opponent got something too. This device helped Darby Allin ascend, for example. But how true is that now? AEW is also the victim of its own greedy excess. They've done everything over 100 times. Signed hot free agents, promoted countless ultra-violent matches, glommed onto every cool trend. The next generation of lucha libre head-turners most recently. In general, 4 years of non-stop TV is a lot. And it's easy, sadly, to grow jaded even by fantastic star talents like Jon Moxley after that amount of time. This is why wrestling was better, or at least more interesting, with more than 2 major promotions jostling for market share. The wrestling dream factory is facing the backlash, which reinforces the fact that everything at some point will. In that sense, you should have seen all of these coming actually, if anything. And on that lovely note, that is our list. Know of any other insane wrestling fan backlashes that people did not see coming? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you're a fan of this sort of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles, just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thanks for checking out this video today. Hopefully we'll see you again very soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself. Bye bye!